Yeah, so having a bias consciously would be that you don't like something compared to something else, or you have a preference for one thing over another thing, even if it's maybe problematic. There are people who are fully aware they don't love having a woman manager, for example. That's a conscious bias. Unconscious bias to me is when you really don't know that you have that preference, right? You're doing hiring for something and you really think you're giving everyone an equal shot, right? All you're doing is looking at experience, you're asking the same questions of everyone, and unconsciously though, you really don't know you're doing this, but you are making decisions that show there's a disparity in the outcomes. So you think you don't have a bias, and yet it sure looks like the outcomes are different. That to me is unconscious bias. You don't even know you have it. And there are some classic examples for how to explain this to people. One that's a little bit overused right now, but which I think is really helpful, is this orchestra study example. So you used to have in the mid-1900s where orchestras, big famous orchestras, were almost all men, right? And so people had this idea, well, maybe men just play better. Other people had this idea, maybe when the jury sits in the audience and they're judging the person auditioning, that maybe there's some bias they don't even know they have that's coming into play in their decision to hire that person or not. So you ask those people, are you trying to only hire men? And they say, no, of course not. If anything, I'm trying to hire more women because we're unbalanced. And yet, it sure seems that only men are getting hired. So what happened? Some researchers thought, well, let's test this idea to see if there's unconscious bias at play. And so they put up a big screen on stage, and the musicians would walk behind the screen, play their music, and people in the audience, the jury, would judge it, right? So at first they noticed no difference, and then they realized that the jury could still hear people's high heels walking up on stage, right? Women's high heels. And so even though they couldn't see the person, through sound, they formed unconscious biases. So then they had people take off shoes or walk in on carpet, play the music, when all you could do was hear the music and not see the person or hear them at all, hear who they were, right? When all you could do was hear the music, just like that, more women got hired, right? So this is a great example to me of what the problem is with unconscious bias. It's not only unfair, it makes people make worse decisions. If my goal is to pick the best musicians, I'm doing a worse job at that because of my unconscious bias. And so this is a metaphor for what you can do in an organization, is how can you put up that metaphorical screen? We know unconscious bias isn't going to go away tomorrow. It's deeply ingrained. But what can we do to put up a screen so that it doesn't get in the way of the work that we're trying to do?